You really understand someone by what they choose to do when there's no pressure, no lawsuit, no contract, no PR strategy guiding the moment, just a quiet decision made privately inside a home with no expectation of headlines. And in the middle of one of the most intense and public periods of her life, Blake Lively made one of those decisions. While her name has been everywhere for over a year, courtrooms, filings, leaked messages, controversies, she quietly narrated a nature documentary about penguins for National Geographic. Not for her career, not for publicity. She did it for her kids. And that same project has now earned 3 Emmy Award nominations. Welcome to the Marquee Report. Today, we're stepping away from the courtroom for a moment because this story deserves its own space. And this is about who Blake Lively is when the noise fades, even just for a second. Before we talk about the documentary itself, let's talk about timing, because context matters here. The past 18 months of her life have been unusually intense, even by Hollywood standards. She starred in one of the biggest films of 2024, a project that crossed roughly $350 million worldwide and became the highest grossing film of her career. It was a film centered around serious themes, something she clearly cared deeply about. But instead of a smooth wave of success, the release became heavily scrutinized. Interviews were analyzed, press tour clips circulated, commentary built rapidly across social media, and then things escalated. A major investigative report dropped. That led to a lawsuit, then a counter lawsuit, then more reports, more statements, and more speculation. Private communications became public talking points, all of it unfolding while she was raising 4 children, ages 11, 9, 6, and 3. That's not just a professional storm, that's a personal one. So when Blake Lively said that this documentary came into her life at a time when her heart needed it most, that statement carries weight. It's not just a promotional line, it reflects timing that for her clearly mattered. Now let's talk about the project itself. Secrets of the Penguins. This isn't just another background nature show. It's a National Geographic mini-series that takes viewers into some of the harshest, most remote environments on Earth to document penguin life in ways rarely captured before. The production team spent extended periods in extreme cold, one working through logistical challenges that most film crews never experience, and the result speaks for itself. The series received 3 Emmy nominations: Outstanding Cinematography, Outstanding Nature Documentary, Outstanding Sound. These are not casual acknowledgments. These categories reflect serious technical and artistic excellence. And throughout that entire experience, the voice guiding viewers through those frozen landscapes is Blake Lively. That choice matters. Narrating a nature documentary is a very specific skill. It requires calmness, emotional warmth, clarity, and the ability to carry a sense of wonder across an entire series. The voice has to feel human. It has to feel present. And based on the recognition the series has received, it's clear the team found exactly what they were looking for. But what makes this story stand out isn't just the project, it's the reason behind it. Blake shared that she narrated the series for her children, not just why she did it, but how she approached it. That distinction is important. It suggests that she wasn't simply taking on a professional role. She was actively shaping her performance with her kids in mind, thinking about how they would hear it, how they would feel it. In many ways, she was telling them a bedtime story, just one that happened to be produced by National Geographic and filmed in some of the most extreme places on the planet. She described how her children often fall asleep watching nature documentaries. She used language that felt personal and unfiltered, calling the penguins sweet babies and describing the experience as comforting. That doesn't read like a media-trained statement. It reads like a parent talking about something meaningful inside their home. And that tone carries through everything she said about the project. She also credited her husband, Ryan Reynolds, along with their children, as the inspiration behind taking on the role. And that detail adds another layer to the story, because much of the public narrative surrounding her life recently has focused on conflict, legal battles, industry tension, behind-the-scenes disagreements. But this paints a completely different picture. A family sitting together at night, watching nature documentaries, 4 kids falling asleep to soft narration about animals, a quiet, ordinary routine that exists completely outside of headlines. And somewhere in those moments, the idea for this project took shape. That contrast is striking. In the middle of all the noise, the filings, the debates, the public opinions, there was still this small, consistent reality happening at home. And from that, something meaningful came out of it. What's also worth noting is that this project has no strategic benefit when it comes to the legal situation surrounding her. It doesn't strengthen arguments, it doesn't influence outcomes. Penguins don't impact lawsuits, and that's exactly why it stands out. Because it's one of the few things she's done recently that exists completely outside of that context. It's not reactive, it's not defensive, it's not part of a larger narrative. It's just something she chose to do. And when the Emmy nominations were announced, her response followed that same tone. She didn't center herself in the achievement. Instead, she focused on the team, the cinematographers who worked in extreme conditions, the crew who made the series possible. She described their work as beautiful and said she felt honored to be part of it. That kind of response tells you how she sees her role in the project, not as the centerpiece, but as one part of a much larger effort. There's a tendency in situations like this to reduce a person down to a single storyline. In this case, it's easy to view everything through the lens of the legal battle. The claims, the responses, the speculation. And those things do matter. They're significant and they'll continue to unfold, but they're not the full picture. This project shows a different side, one that isn't driven by conflict or public perception, a quieter side, a more personal one. Because at the center of all of this is still a person living a life outside of headlines, a mother raising 4 children, a family with routines and shared moments, a decision made not because it would change anything publicly, but because it felt right privately. And sometimes those are the decisions that say the most. So here's the takeaway. Yes, the larger story is still ongoing. There will be more developments, more updates, more moments that pull attention back into the courtroom, and we'll continue to follow that. But moments like this matter too, because they remind us that even in the middle of complex, messy, very public situations, there are still human moments happening quietly in the background. Moments that don't resolve anything legally, but do add something important to the overall picture. 3 Emmy nominations is a significant achievement for any project. And for Blake Lively, this one stands apart. Because it exists on its own, no controversy attached, no debate surrounding it, just a well-made documentary that connected with audiences, and a performance that helped bring it to life. And maybe that's the simplest way to understand it. In the middle of everything else, she chose to do something for her kids, and that choice turned into something meaningful. This has been the Marquee Report, serious, detailed, and human coverage of the biggest stories. If this gave you a different perspective, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.